You can run a 10K this weekend, feel fantastic, and have zero symptoms, all while a widowmaker blockage is growing inside your heart. It sounds impossible, but your body is so good at adapting that it can hide a 90% blockage and keep your blood flowing perfectly right up until the second it stops. That is why, for half of the men who die of heart disease, the very first symptom they ever get is sudden death. They felt fine right up until they didn't. In 15 years of internal medicine, I have watched this take the people who did everything right. The marathon runners, the patients whose cholesterol looked perfect on paper. So I'm going to show you 3 things. Why a healthy heart fails with no warning. How your own body hides these blockages so well that you feel perfect. And the one scan that can actually see the danger early. The test almost no one over 60 is ever told to ask for. Let me start with a patient. I will call him Robert because some version of Robert walks into my office every single month and because his story is the reason I made this video. Robert is 64, retired history teacher. He ran a half marathon every spring for 20 years. Thin, cheerful, blood pressure a little high, but nothing his doctor lost sleep over. His cholesterol looked fine on paper. If you lined up 100 men his age and asked me which one was about to have a heart attack, Robert is the last name I would have picked. He had one anyway, and the frightening part is how little warning his body gave him. To understand how a fit 64-year-old with a clean checkup ends up in my emergency room, we have to go under the chest wall and look at the engine itself. What happened to Robert was not random. It was mechanical, and it followed rules. Once you know the rules, you can see it coming in a way he never could. So let's start with the muscle. Your heart is the hungriest muscle you own. Ounce for ounce, it demands more oxygen than almost any other tissue in your body, and it never gets to rest. To feed that hunger, it relies on a network of vessels wrapped around the outside of it called the coronary arteries. The early anatomists thought those vessels looked like a crown sitting on top of the heart. And the Latin word for crown is corona. That is where the word coronary comes from. These arteries are built like the root system under a large tree. There are 2 main roots, the right coronary artery and the left. The left one almost immediately splits into a big vessel called the left anterior descending artery. In the hospital, we have a grim nickname for that one. We call it the widowmaker. The reason is simple geometry. That artery feeds the front and the bottom of the left ventricle, which is the main pumping chamber, the part of your heart that drives blood out to the rest of your body. Block a small twig out near the edge, and you lose a few leaves. Block this one close to the trunk, and the whole tree comes down. A blockage there can stop your heart from pumping at all. That is the vessel that took Robert. Now let's see how it gets blocked in the first place. Here is what should bother you about Robert. He ran half marathons and his artery still got blocked. That process starts in the wall of the vessel itself, and it has been happening to most of us quietly for decades. A healthy artery is flexible and smooth on the inside. The lining is called the endothelium, a single layer of cells so slick that blood slides past without sticking. But that lining takes abuse. 3 things in particular grind at it like sandpaper. High blood pressure, which pounds the wall with every beat. High blood sugar, which turns the blood itself corrosive. And smoking, which poisons the lining directly. Here is the part almost no one tells you. Even decades of hard exercise, all that high-volume blood flow at speed can scratch that lining too. So keep running. Just understand that running alone does not make you bulletproof. Once the lining is scratched, your body does what it always does. It tries to repair the damage. It sends cholesterol, the LDL kind, to patch the scratch. Then the immune system sends white blood cells to inspect the repair. Those cells swallow the cholesterol, swell up, and harden in place. That hardened mound of cholesterol, calcium, and cellular debris has a name. We call it plaque, and the disease where it builds through your arteries is atherosclerosis. Most people carry a picture of a pipe slowly closing, getting narrower and narrower until the day it shuts. That picture is the single most dangerous misunderstanding in all of heart disease. And fixing it is the whole reason a healthy person can drop with no warning. Here is what actually happens as that plaque grows, and it runs almost opposite to a clogging pipe. When plaque builds up inside the wall, your artery does something remarkable. Instead of letting the channel narrow, the wall bulges outward to make room for it. The opening stays wide. The blood keeps moving at full volume. Doctors call this positive remodeling, and it is your body being clever in a way that can get you killed, because it means you can carry an enormous amount of plaque, a wall packed full of it, while the tube down the middle stays completely open. Full blood flow. A normal stress test sometimes and zero symptoms. You can run your 10K and feel wonderful, because as far as your heart can tell in that moment, nothing is wrong. This is the answer to the question I opened with. This is how half of the men who die of coronary disease and close to 2/3 of the women get sudden death as their very first symptom. The plaque sat there for years. The opening never narrowed enough to warn them. They felt fine, because feeling fine is exactly what positive remodeling is built to let them do. Which means the real question, the one that decides whether you live or die, comes down to stability. Does that plaque stay quiet and sealed, or does it tear open? That is what flips a silent blockage into a deadly one. And it is the next thing I want to show you. A stable plaque can sit in your artery for 20 years and never hurt you. An unstable one can kill you on a Tuesday afternoon. The whole game is the difference between them. So let me show you what unstable actually looks like. The dangerous plaques are the soft ones. A soft plaque is a thin capped pocket of inflammatory gunk, cholesterol, and dead cells sealed under a fragile lid, almost like a blister just under the surface of the artery lining. It often does not block much. It might narrow the vessel by only 30 or 40%. On a scan, it can look almost minor. Then comes a trigger, a spike in blood pressure, a burst of hard physical effort, a wave of stress, and that thin cap tears. We call it a plaque rupture. The instant it tears, the soft contents spill into the bloodstream, and your body reacts the only way it knows how. It treats the rupture as an open wound. It rushes platelets to the spot to form a clot and stop the bleeding. That same response saves your life when you cut your finger. Inside a coronary artery, it does the opposite. Within minutes, the clot swells until it seals the vessel completely. The blood hits a wall. That is a heart attack. A type 1 heart attack to be exact, and notice what actually did the killing. The slow plaque never closed the artery. The sudden clot did, in minutes, on top of a blockage that may have been modest the day before. This is why a clean stress test last year is no promise. The plaque that kills you may be too small to fail that test. It only has to be unstable. So, quick thing while we are here. If this is the first time anyone has explained why a healthy person can have a heart attack with a normal checkup, hit subscribe. I make these for people over 60 who want the real mechanism, not a pamphlet, and it genuinely helps me reach the next Robert. Now, back to it, which brings me back to Robert because his heart attack did not even follow the rupture story I just told you. His was a different mechanism, and it is the one that catches a lot of fit people over 60 off guard. Robert was running a 10K. Around mile 4, he felt no crushing chest pain at all. He just felt off. His energy drained out of him, and he went light-aided, a little sick to his stomach, clammy. He told himself he was dehydrated and pushed on, which is exactly what a lifelong runner does. At the hospital, we ran his blood and found a protein called troponin where it should not be. Troponin lives sealed inside your heart muscle cells like the liquid inside a glow stick. Snap a glow stick and the liquid leaks out. When heart muscle cells die, they break open and leak troponin into the blood. Robert's was climbing. His heart muscle was dying. But when we looked at his arteries, we did not find a vessel clotted shut. We found a 50% blockage open, blood still moving through it. So, how do you have a heart attack with the arteries still flowing? This is a supply and demand problem. Sitting on his couch, Robert's 50% blockage meant nothing because enough blood got through to feed a resting heart. But out on that course, his heart rate climbed past 160. Now, his heart was demanding a fire hose of blood, and that narrowed artery could only deliver a garden hose. Demand outran supply, and the muscle began to suffocate. The medical word for that starvation is ischemia. Robert had one more thing stacked against him. His heart had slipped into atrial fibrillation, AIB, where the upper chambers stop beating in a clean rhythm and just quiver. The heart then races too fast to fill properly between beats. A partial blockage, a sprinting heart rate, and no time to refill. That is the perfect storm, and it put Robert on my table. He survived, but a piece of his heart muscle did not. And that piece is exactly what I want to help you keep. Now, you might be thinking, fine, but surely I would feel something first. Here is where the numbers get genuinely surprising and where I can finally hand you some good news. As a rule, you will not feel chest pain from a stable blockage until the artery is roughly 70% closed. Below that, your heart compensates and you feel nothing. Above it, you start to notice a tightness in the chest when you climb the stairs that fades when you stop and rest. We call that stable anga, and it is your heart's check engine light. If you ever feel it, you do not wait it out. You get seen. But hold on to this number because it surprises my own colleagues. Most heart attacks do not come from the big 70 and 80% blockages. The majority strike in arteries less than 50% blocked because the small, soft plaques are the ones most likely to pop. The blockage big enough to warn you is often the safer one. The quiet little one is the assassin. So where is the good news? It is built into your own body. Your heart has a backup system called collateral circulation. When a blockage builds slowly over years, the heart grows new little side streets around it, detours that keep blood moving if the main road ever closes. This is why a 70-year-old can sometimes survive a blockage that would kill a 40-year-old. The older heart had years to build the detours. The younger one had none. And here is the best part. You can tell your heart to build those detours, and the thing that drives it is exercise. The steady kind, what trainers call zone 2, with the occasional harder push. The same running that scratches the lining is what paves the bypass around it. Exercise buys you time, and in a heart attack, time is the only thing that matters. Let me tell you what I mean when I say time is muscle, because it is the most important clock in medicine, and most people have never heard it ticking. From the moment a coronary artery seals shut, the heart muscle it feeds starts to die. At about 20 minutes, the damage begins to turn permanent. By around 90 minutes, large areas of that muscle have turned to scar, and scar tissue does not pump. Whatever you lose in those minutes, you do not get back. That is why getting help fast is the difference between a full recovery and a weakened heart for the rest of your life. So, you have to know what this looks like. And I need the women watching to pay close attention here. Men tend to get the version everyone pictures. Heavy pressure in the chest, pain shooting down an arm. But for many women, and for a lot of people over 60, it arrives quieter and easier to wave off. Unusual exhaustion that comes out of nowhere. Shortness of breath doing something that was easy last week. A heaviness that feels like bad indigestion or acid reflux. And a strange, hard-to-explain sense of dread. The feeling that something is deeply wrong. I need to draw a hard line right here. If you or someone next to you feels chest pressure, breathlessness, a cold sweat, pain in the jaw, neck, or arm, or that sudden sense of doom, do not wait it out and do not drive yourself. Call 911. Every minute you wait is muscle you will never get back. I would rather you call and be sent home 100 times than wait once and lose the heart or lose the person. Knowing the symptoms saves you in the moment of the attack. But I promised you a way to see this coming long before that moment arrives. So let's talk about how you actually check. The standard cholesterol panel your doctor runs tells you what is floating in your blood. It says nothing about what is already stuck to your walls. To see that, you have to look at the arteries directly, and there are two scans that do it. The first is a coronary calcium scan, the CAC score. 5 minutes, no needles, no dye. It measures the hardened calcium built into your artery walls. A score of 0 is close to a clean bill. A score climbing past 400 is a flashing red light that you already have serious disease, even if you feel perfect. For most people over 60 who have never had a heart event, that single number tells you more about your real risk than your cholesterol ever will. The calcium scan has one blind spot, and it matters. It sees hardened, older plaque, but it can miss the young, soft, unstable kind. The exact plaque that ruptured in the people I've been describing. That is where the second scan comes in, a CT coronary angio. It uses dye to map the arteries in detail and can actually see the soft plaque before it hardens, before it gets its chance to blow. It is the closest thing we have to an early warning system for the silent heart attack. This is the test almost no one over 60 is told to ask for, not because it is hidden, but because a standard appointment is 10 minutes long and built around the numbers that are easy to bill. And a conversation about scanning a healthy feeling person rarely fits that window. Robert got both scans after his event. They found the soft plaque that nearly killed him and 3 more spots building quietly that no one had ever seen. Today, he still runs, but now he runs knowing exactly what is in his arteries. With his blood pressure finally under control and his arterial blockages being carefully monitored, the scan could not erase the damage that had already been done. Nothing could undo the heart attack he had already suffered. But what it very likely did was prevent the next one. And for many people, that is the difference between years of healthy life and a medical emergency that comes without warning. So before we finish, let me leave you with a few practical steps you can take this week, starting today, to dramatically improve your odds of protecting your heart. First, get your blood pressure under control. This is one of the most important things you can do for your cardiovascular health. Every time your blood pressure rises too high, it places tremendous mechanical stress on the delicate inner lining of your arteries. Think of it like sandpaper repeatedly scraping a surface. Over time, those tiny injuries create the perfect environment for plaque to begin forming. Many people over 60 focus only on cholesterol while completely overlooking blood pressure. Yet it is often the single most powerful factor driving damage inside the arteries. Second, pay close attention to your blood sugar levels. High blood sugar does far more than increase the risk of diabetes. It creates an environment throughout the body that promotes inflammation and damages blood vessels from the inside out. When blood sugar remains elevated, the bloodstream becomes more hostile to healthy arteries, encouraging plaque buildup and making existing plaque more unstable. Unstable plaque is dangerous because it is more likely to rupture suddenly and trigger a heart attack or stroke. And remember, you do not have to be diagnosed with diabetes for elevated blood sugar to be causing harm. Third, keep moving every day. Your heart was designed for regular activity. Consistent exercise helps strengthen the cardiovascular system, improves circulation, lowers inflammation, and encourages the growth of tiny backup blood vessels known as collateral circulation. These natural detours can provide alternative routes for blood flow if a major artery becomes narrowed or blocked. You do not need to run marathons or spend hours in a gym. Even a brisk daily walk can make a meaningful difference. If you are not exercising now, start with 10 or 15 minutes a day and build from there. Fourth, know your numbers. Guessing is not a strategy when it comes to heart health. Make sure you know your cholesterol levels, but do not stop there. Know your blood pressure. Know your fasting blood sugar. Know your A1C if your doctor recommends it. These numbers provide valuable clues about what is happening inside your arteries long before symptoms appear. And finally, if you are over 60 or if heart disease runs in your family, have a direct conversation with your doctor. Ask a simple but important question. Should I have a coronary calcium scan? Say those exact words. A coronary calcium scan is not necessary for everyone, but for the right person, it can reveal hidden plaque years before it causes a life-threatening event. The earlier you know what is happening inside your arteries, the more opportunities you have to take action before a heart attack ever occurs. Heart disease often develops silently for decades. The good news is that many of the factors driving it are within your control. Small actions taken today, controlling blood pressure, managing blood sugar, staying active, knowing your numbers, and asking the right questions can significantly reduce your risk tomorrow. Your future heart may depend on the choices you make this week.